This is Jake Fabish, host of Before the Build. In just a minute, you're going to hear this same intro again. In that intro, Natalie humbly points out that I give her credit for 25 years instead of the actual 17, which is characteristic of Natalie and her commitment to clarity. I left it in and unedited because it was too good to cut out. These episodes are intentionally only lightly edited. They are meant to be a simple conversation. My goal for Before the Build is twofold: to have conversations with great designers and architects that elevate the importance and impact of good design in Louisville, and secondly, to showcase the depth of skill, care, and professionalism that exist in the Louisville design scene. Natalie exemplifies all of these values, and I know you're going to enjoy listening to her on this episode. If you are a Louisville architect or designer, or you know an architect or designer that should be on this show, reach out and let me know. I'm always excited to make new friends. Thanks for being here. Enjoy the show. Today we have Natalie Officer. Natalie Officer has been a standard-setting designer in Louisville, Kentucky for the past 25 years, and I couldn't be more excited about today's episode. If I had to choose just a single word to sum up my experiences with Natalie to date, it would be the word fierce. Natalie is fiercely devoted to her clients, her community, and elevating the place of design in everyday life. Natalie and her team exemplify the reason why design matters and all the ways that good design improves outcomes for individuals, families, and communities. Natalie, thanks so much for carving out some time today, coming in to have a conversation with me. Super excited about what we're going to talk about today.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I am fierce.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll take it.
Will you take it? It was a little bit of a gamble. I was like, I'm not going to tell her first.
No, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
But I think actually considering, people aren't fierce to start with. Mm-hmm. Usually they're made fierce.
Yeah.
And so I would say that that's a very fair assessment.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I was like, should I give this word to her first? Because I was like, I want to see how it lands, if it resonates, or if you're like, hold on, that's not me.
Yes. I don't know how much you're going to edit. When you go back to edit, we've been in Louisville now 17 years.
Okay.
And we started in Chicago.
Okay.
As a staging company in 2026.
Okay.
Nope, not 2026, 2006. And so I was previously in a whole different field, and my husband in our courtship got me into building and real estate and renovations. So It's been really, we've been here almost, I guess, 16 years now, but it's just it's a delight, honestly, to be trusted by people. I think that is, especially now more than ever, when people truly trust us with their vision and their home and their resources. I am fierce about it, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great character trait. I wish there were more fierce designers and contractors about the right things. But I always like to kick people off to just kind of bring people into a day in the life. What is like something special that you're working on right now? What's your present look like?
Well, I think that if I were to say that any project we're working on wasn't special, it would be untrue. But I think everybody, right now we have some really interesting things, some things we haven't done before. So we're doing a renovation in a neighborhood that we would almost never be in because we're a little more eccentric. And they've asked for that special kind of spice. And that's exciting because while I don't necessarily want to revise somebody else's work, they're asking us for something very specific. And it's a meticulous job, but it's also something that I can really lean into the people and say, and they have the resources to curate it in their way. We want to do it carefully and with good outcomes. I hate to talk about return on investment, but it's real, and are we giving them back what they're looking for? But it's just the trust factor of someone saying, well, we know you don't really work out here. We know that's not really what you like. You're more nuanced and you do these kind of modern builds. But I think that this is something that is kind of a heart language. When someone comes for you in that way, I think you have to immerse yourself and going to honor that trust. So that's kind of fun. Yeah. And then of course we have a house we're doing in Old Louisville. Okay. We have a new build that we're doing. a large, about 5,000 square feet home.
Oh, wow.
So, it's exciting. And we actually have a donut shop that we've been working on.
Okay.
So and we're all over, fiercely all over the range. But we love these commercial projects that support community. And so if you're a fan of Bamboo over on Lime Kiln, which is a great cake donut shop with great matcha, they're going to open Ludo's, which is essentially a combination between Louisville and donuts, and in Douglas Loop soon. So that will be really, really fun.
Awesome.
So, a wide range of things going on.
So tell me about the donut shop. Did you already know the owner, or how did you guys connect?
He came to us. He moved here about 3 or 4 years ago. He moved here and had come actually from a family of people who made donuts. And this is his branch out, and wanted to make this kind of very holistic approach, just like a very calm, soothing donut shop where there were healthy options, and also it felt a little bit more organic and kid friendly, know. And so, he was introduced to us, I think, through his agent. And we met with him at length, and then went with the contractor he had suggested for the area that he's working in. And we just adore him. He's wonderful. And Ty trusted us, which I think is really important. And when he was ready to grow, and also growing another location within 3 to 4 years of your first location, pretty huge, know? And so he knew he wanted to be in the Highlands, and he picked a really great location. And so he brought us alongside, and, we have a team. So we have myself, Julie, Sydney, and now Chloe, who just joined us this year. So we have a wide variety of talents that we can bring to the table. Even though we collaborate on each project, really everybody kind of sparks different kind of joy. And so Sydney's taking the lead on the Ludo's location, but it's going to be really fun. And it's exciting when the public can enjoy an outcome in that way. For sure. Because we kind of talk about by the ones or by the thousands, right? And design is often by the ones or threes or fours or fives within a household and whomever they entertain.
Right.
Otherwise, your work wouldn't necessarily be enjoyed or appreciated outside of photography. And so to see that happen for a public space, we did it at the 500 West Jefferson building, which was awesome. We've done the Ashbrook Hotel, Atomic, of course, which is a club. I don't know if you've been. And then these donut shops. And also we were on the ground floor, some of the please and thank yous. So seeing those spaces come to life where people can really engage in community, meet each other, and see each other is really kind of always the goal.
I think there's two strands I want to pull on there. The first one I want to kind of explore a little bit is with a new build, obviously you're going to build like to the client, and that's a little bit of more of a blank slate. But you mentioned working in a neighborhood that you wouldn't normally work in, and then this being the second donut shop, is that right?
Yeah.
So both, unusual neighborhood and the second donut shop would introduce some like pretty definite constraints in certain ways, I imagine, as far as like, there's already some kind of direction there.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear like, you meet the client, you hear their plans, there's certain constraints. How do you think through as you start to head into, I want to take this owner's vision and I've got these constraints, like what's your thought process there?
There really isn't a project at all without constraints. People always, a lot of times people will approach me and they'll say, well, I know that, this may be not the budget you thought we would have, or the structure isn't maybe like some of the other things. Every single build, every single renovation is nuanced. And if you're dealing with people or humanity, you really do have to deal within what their constraints are, whether that's a budget, whether that's, timeline. It could just be an emotional constraint, it could be their affinity for lightness or darkness or, calm or noise, whatever the constraints are. But those two projects are just an example of something that we're doing all the time.
Right.
It's just an order of magnitude, right? So when you hear what people want, and you look at the constraints, that's your canvas. There's never a blank canvas.
Right.
Even with the new build, there's an architect involved who had a vision before we came on board.
I gotcha.
And then the landscaper has a vision. And so if you don't have an appetite for collaboration, design, construction, renovation, architecture, it's going to be tricky,
right?
And we test those waters on every single project.
Right.
So you've had some wonderful architects on that we've had the joy of working with, landscape architects as well, and designers. Everyone has their vision and their nuance.
Yeah.
And so it's a long answer to a short question. But sometimes it's just made better that way. So if I'm the single control of the design, it's not going to end as well as if I soften my edges and say, okay, fierce as I may be, tell me what you think the outside, where the outside meets the inside and what's that intersection look like. And let's talk about the light and where the light comes into the house. And did we think about the sunrise and the sunset in the kitchen? And maybe we need to pivot the model. Those conversations are two-way streets, and so buckle up, because sometimes it'll take you a day or two to process. Sometimes it'll take a week to process what someone's trying to say and what their perspective is. But it's really just about the constraints. It's with working in whatever constraints you have to, on any given job. So you just sharpen your crayons and you just, rest some on some jobs and use others as you can when you can.
I think you used a word that to me needs to be the focal point of any team that's assembled on any project. That's collaboration. Because every member of our team should be here for the betterment of the client. And so, collaboration is the way that happens. I think to me, if you add iteration within the collaboration, that's when the really secret sauce comes out. Because I feel like, especially when you bring multiple different design ideas, different visions, being able to iterate your way through and throw ideas and find what really resonates with the client, fits within the constraints, and meets the goals.
I mean, we're in an industry where, I suppose, like many industries, things are changing all the time, right? So people see things, they anticipate outcomes, and then they ask you to kind of dovetail in and make it happen. And if you aren't open to those nuances or new information, working with electricians, working with the reflected ceiling plan, everybody's really tired of recessed lights. And the color changes and how that affects an environment. Just that one change, right, has a trickle-down effect on color, texture, window treatments, what the ceiling looks like and how it's finished, and what the contractor has to do and how it fits in these mud-in lights. So it's just, you have to kind of tranche through that with your group and decide where it's important and where it's not. And if you're not collaborating, you're not learning, probably. And we're learning every single day. And maybe sometimes we're teaching, and sometimes, I think perhaps a time or two I've been told, oh, well, so-and-so said as a contractor meeting with you that you're hard to work with. And I would say that anything where you're learning or you're collaborating is going to feel hard sometimes, and so I won't necessarily apologize for that, but I would say there are times I feel the same, right? Where I'm working with a contractor and he's telling me something that I really did not know, or maybe did never really want to know, but it's a forced function of the collaboration, that we're kind of ebbing and flowing together.
I think at the point when we give up collaboration, we give up our client's best interest, because, but it's always, I'm an advocate for, construction ends up being really complicated. And, it's so complicated that, all these years of building science, and we're continuing to learn new things about the best way to assemble wall assemblies, or best ways to put together a room, or how to think through light. And, now with the technology that can change with the daylight and how that affects health and all those sorts of things. So there's no way that anybody has a complete understanding of the field. And so I think, to me, it's a sign of a good designer, a good contractor, when collaboration is their native language. That's like the first thing that they want to do, because I think then I recognize this person understands the pursuit of client interest over self-interest, over, well, this is the way we've always done it, or I think that's super important.
I would say for me and for our team, it's not just me. Like I'm now not, it's not my first rodeo, right? It's our second rodeo, but it's many, many rodeos in. And so I can kind of sit back and listen to my team and hear them say, have their feedback, have their perspective. And I would say collectively, when someone says, well, that's not how we've always done it, it's a kiss of death for us. So we know that if that is said, that's almost like immediate red flag because it's not that the way you've always done it is wrong. It's that you have to know that there could be a new way to do it. There could be a new consideration.
Right.
And oftentimes, especially of late, to be fully trusted, again, like, as you said, we are a service and it's a luxury in my mind. I spent years being surprised that I would get paid to do this thing that I love so much. And I had a client who now is our team member who said, that's important, like that you have to get paid to do what you love, and you still can love it, know?
Yeah.
But to think about things collaboratively and look at people and be able to say, just because you've always done it that way, I honor that. And that means your tool is sharp in that way. But let's look at it a different way, or perhaps this is a way that we could do it. And a lot of times there'll be a bristle, and we've worked with people at length and finished jobs that turned out beautifully, and it was painful the entire time. And at the end of the project, they couldn't be happier to see me go. And then within 2 to 3 years, I'm having a conversation with them again about that really was a great outcome. It was hard. It wasn't the easiest thing we've ever done. But because we did that project and because it's been marketed so well and because you pushed it so hard and shared it, people see that we can do that. And now we believe that we can do that,
Right. Yeah.
And so for me, that's the bounty, right? Is I don't think it's always great to have that rub the whole time. I prefer not, right? I would prefer not. But sometimes the client has already selected their contractor. And because they don't know the relationship that I'm about to have or that contractor is about to have, they've chosen people agnostically, right? They're like, okay, now you guys sit down together and we hope that this goes well, right? I would suggest you do it the other way, where you're having us sit down and discuss or talking together as a group way ahead of that before you just throw a contractor and a designer together.
Yes.
But we can almost always make it work. It's just a matter of having those kind of early planning sessions and collaboration. We'd rather do that on the front end.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I'd love to jump in. So on your About Us, I saw Bloomington, Indiana. Is that where all this started?
That is where all this started.
This is the journey of Natalie. She started, so you're born in Bloomington, but then a minute ago you said you guys kind of got your start in Chicago.
We did.
So what was the journey from Bloomington to Chicago?
So I grew up in Bloomington, Indiana. My whole extended family is there. I came from a family of really just earnest, honest, wonderful people, welders, tradespeople. My parents built their home and I was literally on that site all the time because we lived in a small trailer right on the site where the house was built. And I think my parents finished that out. It was a 10-year process.
Oh my
goodness. And there was no mortgage. So I had a very long study of how something would be built. And I finally realized later in my life that those yellow things that go around light bulbs on construction site, those aren't fixtures. I didn't know they weren't fixtures, but
hopefully you didn't design the entire house around the yellow.
Yes. So I think it was destined that I would be in this career. But I started in Bloomington, Indiana, went to school at Indiana University for fashion, honestly. Fashion was where I thought that was going to be the balloon that took me out of Indiana and where I wanted to go. And it was. My mom was very worried about that. So there's a business degree also. But I started my work life as an assistant buyer for Marshall Fields out of Minneapolis. And then moved to Chicago and worked for an art college, but then also had a nice stint with a fashion designer named Sigrid Olsen. And that was lovely. She's a print textile designer, and she ended up selling her company when kind of all of the retail, if you're in that world, it's like at the big popcorn of life where Federated came in and bought all the department stores and everything became like a Macy's across the country. There used to be all these independent, department stores. So Sigrid was a great mentor. I had a great time learning from her. I got to do all of the kind of store designs for shops within shop concept. And all that time, I always kind of loved interior design. I think moving things soothed me. My dad would come home and I'd have everything moved around and be like, where's my chair? chair. I'm like, I don't know. It's over there. It was ugly. We recovered it.
Yeah.
So the sewing and the painting and the general artistry of life and being a child of creatives. My dad was a welder, but he also would make a light fixture or a doorknob or there's some places around town that you can go, and I would be like, oh, my grandpa made that. My dad made that. And so this just kind of always in there.
Yeah.
And then when my husband and I met, I thought this was just going to be this like romantic courtship. And about 4 months into our dating relationship, he said, I think I want to renovate this house. And I said, have you ever renovated a house? And he said, no, I've never done anything in building or construction. He said, but I feel like you have the chutzpah to like want to do this.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I do, but do you,
Are you ready?
So are you ready for this? So we really, I guess you would say it just bootstrapped it or, grassroots. We really just started. We had 2 full-time jobs and we were traveling all the time. And we thought it'd be a great idea to renovate a 3-flat home and deconvert it to a single-family home in the Ravenswood area, right outside Lincoln Square, which is in the northern part of Chicago. And then we ended up doing 2 more. And then we moved here. With a brand new baby. And I think shortly after that, our son was on the way. And so we landed here and I started doing some staging. I kind of thought like, okay, well, I'm not going to walk right into a construction job. I maybe didn't even feel qualified to do that. And we also had the need for me to be with our children because Reese was at that time the breadwinner and that was fine.
Yeah.
But I had been working since I was about 14 years old and I wouldn't say I was a natural born mother. I think that there was I just didn't know an energy other than to have this other thing that was going on. And so we had the opportunity to move to London, England.
Oh, wow.
We were there a little over a year and then we came back and Reese kind of looked at me one day and he said, well, what are you going to do? Because the fashion industry here is different. It's a very different focus. And I guess he was saying, like, are you going to get your bearings?
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure. I really wasn't sure I was going to get my bearings at all. So the staging was going well. That was kind of going well. And ultimately, there used to be a publication called Underwire. And Laura was the editor of that. And she came and did an interview with me about the staging that I was doing in this staging company. And ultimately, at the end of the interview, she said to me, the only person who doesn't think you're a designer is you. And that's really up to you because you can be more than one thing. And in your lifespan, right? You can be more than one thing. And I've really rested in that. That took me a lot of time. I didn't really say I was a designer. I wasn't I didn't go to school for an interior design degree, but I put those 2 things together, which was the construction and we did the demo and we framed the walls and we drywalled the walls and we dug the trench and we did all of those things ourselves. And I coupled with the textiles and the color theory and all of those things and creating models even within that degree and creating models for the in-store shops. I blended those things together. And then I had a really rough road of things I had to learn. And never would I say that it was easy. A lot of people who have gone to design school would say, well, maybe you're missing this part or you're missing that element. Completely fair. It's been a very costly path of learning through mistakes and not mistakes I could ever pass on to a client, mistakes that I had to humble myself and humble the process and say, yeah, I didn't see that or I didn't understand that. I do now, and just that willingness to kind of ebb and flow and the rest of the things that were important to the client, the honesty, the transparency, the schedule, the gentleness within their own home, the care that we take with people. I think those things really outshine sometimes. People will be very forgiving about a creative mistake. They will be very forgiving about how you handle that mistake, if you handle that mistake fiercely.
Yes.
But I think learning's okay. And I think growing's okay. And if we don't do those things and we expect perfection all the time, we have a really rough road.
Yeah. So who is your first client? As you mentioned, Reese was saying like finding your bearings. So how did that first client come about?
That's really interesting. We actually had staging clients in Chicago.
Okay.
Twofold. One, I'm not a very good joiner, but I joined a women's group that was happening here in Louisville when I first landed, and just very kind of shaky stood up and explained what I was doing. And one of the ladies there, who's a professional here in town and we're still friends, hired me. And I think she paid me $35 an hour at the time. So that was a humbling experience. And then I would also say that our relationship was kind of our first client. We bought and built and renovated 3 homes. And then we moved to Louisville and we did a 4th home on our own. And now I think we're in our 5th home. And so, you work out a lot of things in those sequences, and you explore a lot of things first before you would ever do them outside in the field. And so I would say, one, thank you to Summer for, hiring me at that time. But the other thing that was really helpful is our real estate agent when we moved to Louisville. Her name was Vicki Blanton, went on to be a great friend of ours. And she hired me to do the staging for her properties. And as they turned really quickly, she had the kindness to then share my name in good faith. And it went from staging people's homes to ultimately them calling me back to do the actual interior design. So they'd say, well, you staged the house and the way it looked when we got here, we loved. Could you come in and do these other things? And so that just kind of moved and moved and moved. I would say that there are 2 very impactful clients, and they'll know exactly who they are, who were willing to take a big risk. And we did 2 huge renovations that they believed we could do, and I wasn't sure. But they trusted us and trusted me, and I would say that I'm forever grateful for them. And to this day, if they're in a third world country in a bad place, I'm coming for them. So
you've got them.
I've got them, and they've got me. I know that. So that's a really nice thing to have.
Well, as you gave your present day kind of rundown, you work in a pretty broad spectrum of types of projects. So how did your entry into the design world inform having such a wide spectrum of projects? Like, did it just sort of naturally occur, or was that intentional, choosing to keep your spectrum kind of wider than maybe some other designers who are a little bit more specialized in particular types of renovations and designs?
That's a really good question, Jake. I think curiosity, self-testing, right? You're like, can I do that? Some of that has been very intentional. We're very intentional about the projects that you're going to need to edit. I think I've had a strategy all along. And the strategy that I've abided by was to stay very curious, right? When someone asks you to do something, consider it. Even if it's uncomfortable, consider it. And that's where some of the big jobs have really come from. Some of the ones that people will be like, wow, that's 40-story building that you did a large section of, or wow, that's the exterior of a bank. What, like, I wasn't sure, but I was curious, and with their inquiry became confident in the ability to do something, because if they think I can do it, I think that that's an important check in with that, But we have always had a strategy for Louisville, and Louisville in and of itself sometimes wants to grow, but not at the pace that other people would necessarily want it to grow. There's a lot of comforts in what we know and who we are as a city. Coming here from outside the city, I see that.
Yes.
I tread lightly because I understand that that's for them. It's not for me. And so our strategy has always been to explore all the neighborhoods, to work in all of the neighborhoods. And as a small business, to survive, I also have to explore Nashville, and I have to explore St. Louis, and I have to explore Cincinnati. And that is important to our ability to continue. And so sometimes those projects are those kind of push the boundaries.
Yeah.
Can we do it logistically? Is it good for our community? Is it good for that community? And kind of just taking my focus off of the 6 zip codes around us, and looking at ourselves as a designer for the region or designer for anywhere.
Yeah.
I think that has always been the strategy, to stay curious, and is it really good for community? Because those things are really clutch to me. The initial story project, which was, kind of this new thing at the time, and the leadership there, the vision they had was really important to us. During some of the protesting and all that was going on with the Breonna Taylor case, add COVID, add all of that chaos and fear and angst. We did the outside of a large bank downtown. For me, that was to shed light, right? To give something beautiful to a community that was hurting. Such a small effort, like a really relative, maybe what was needed and maybe even naive. But at the time, it felt like, you've asked me, I'm going to lend myself to this. There's a photo of that building with the National Guard standing in front of it. And for me, I'm like, they weren't protecting the building. And, they were here for whatever the reasons they were called. But more importantly, there's something of beauty in that space while other people are feeling what they're feeling. I think our growth and our projects that we've done, we always try to create space for a diverse range of talents, people, belief systems, and kind of haven the work that we do. So I could go on and on about that, but at the core of who I am, that's really my effort, and what I'd love to see Louisville reflect back as often as possible.
Yeah.
So,
from your perspective, you've used the word curiosity multiple times. Why is curiosity so important to you personally?
I think it's about humanity. I mean, people do things different than I do them. People live differently. We often wonder, in areas where we're not familiar, if you're not curious about why someone or some group operates a certain way, there's probably something you don't know or understand. And so if you're not curious about that, they're just over there having that problem, right? And we can't solve for everything.
Right.
Sometimes design can solve a need, right? Sometimes just personal interaction can solve for a need.
Yeah.
Or genuine interest, right? And so for me, whether it's design, whether it's people, whether it's new creatives, old creatives, I think curiosity is kind of one of those things that is just, I don't know, it's an asset. It's something I put in my pocket every single day.
Yeah.
And sometimes it gets me in trouble, Sometimes you ask somebody, you ask some questions and people are like, why do you care?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, because to me, that's what we're here for. That's just truth. I mean, that's just the truth. It's really what we're here for.
Yeah.
But that's personal. Not everyone feels that way, but you can tell very quickly who doesn't feel that way.
They'll tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. But we've had such a beautiful welcome, honestly. For those who want what we do, we've had a beautiful welcome. And within each of those jobs, there's always that person who comes to me and says, well, I know I'm just here to lay the tile, or I know I'm just here to do demo, but I understand that you're the designer. Did you know that I do this? And they show me a picture. I mean, it's happened so many times of something they've created, right? Something they're so proud of that they do in their side business or that they've been doing for years, or that they're really talented at. And if you're curious about it, you can find a place for it, know?
Yeah.
So in so many of the jobs that we've done, there's a piece that's been built in a collaboration with that person.
Okay.
And they never thought they were going to be seen in that way. So those are the little moments for me that we've done a lot of really great things and really wonderful outcomes. Those friendships, those folks who now have an Instagram page of the things that they do, or are like, oh, well, who would want to see that? And then all of a sudden they realize that, well, it's in a magazine.
Yeah.
It's all over the gram, buddy. And now somebody's going to call you and ask you to do it again,
Amazing.
And so for us, that's kind of, I guess that's that's the juice.
Yeah.
The squeeze sometimes is rough.
Right,
and sometimes there's arduous days and confusion in communication and maybe people not understanding the process or, I don't know. You drop the can of paint, right? There are things that are, there's a reason they make that metal tool.
Gosh.
But I think that, you if you're curious, you get a real bounty in this job, in this industry. So.
Yeah. So I would love to kind of dig into Louisville a little bit. So you born and raised in Bloomington, went to Chicago, came back to Louisville, went to London, came back to Louisville. So what was it about Louisville that kept drawing you guys back?
Well, I think it would be dishonest to say that it wasn't work. My husband has had a wonderful career here, and our children, once we became kind of rooted here, I guess they say grow where you're planted. And so I've grown the way that I can grow within Louisville. And I think there is some limitation to that. I wouldn't ever want to suggest to a new designer that you can thrive completely in one zip code. I don't think that's the case. I think you have to find the people that want to find you and grow in that way. But Louisville has done some really beautiful things for my life, for my children, and for my husband. And I think you can see spaces where people are really thriving. And that is because they really want to be here and they really want to see Louisville develop and attract new and interesting joys, that kind of thing. But I'm a big supporter of Louisville visual arts. I think our artist community is tremendous and people don't necessarily see it all the time because there's just not enough galleries and not enough walls for art. And so that's something that I've really leaned into and enjoyed. The community around our Smoketown Shelby Park studio has been great for us. We were in the Hope Mills building before.
Okay.
That's a whole community of creatives and designers kind of stacked on top of each other. And I, of course, gravitate toward the more urban areas because of my life in Chicago. I think I'll always love that activity and that kind of energy. But I think we've been really lucky. And I think Louisville, the design culture here is growing, the community of interior designers. There were a few really big players when I arrived. And it's been really great to see, I need more adjectives, but to me, it's been heart-filling to see how many new designers there are and how much growth there has been in that design. Not everyone's doing traditional work anymore, and we're not limited by the fact that we're in Kentucky. That has been the nuance for social media and platforms, and I guess in some ways self-promotion because you're putting out on your own channel the way you want the world to see you. You aren't stuck on a page the way somebody else wants to see you. And so while, the river runs with bourbon and the horses run wild, that's not for everybody.
Right.
And so the story about Kentucky, we hope to kind of change the narrative around design for Kentucky and show the world something different.
Yeah. So talk about the process. Your office is four, would you call four designers or so when did you start adding to the team? Natalie, you were working by yourself, you're kind of growing from staging to more kind of renovation. So what was your first hire and then how have you thought about when to grow and how to grow since then?
All right, we're going to go deep here. Okay. So I think that stage of knowing when you can be one designer and knowing when you need to hire, and I would say this for contractors as well, is paramount because the growth cycle will be so inhibited by capacity and knowing your capacity.
Right.
So I think I say that retrospectively, of course. My first hire was a young lady named Erin Miller.
Okay.
And she was extremely talented. And I would say that she is the first big catalyst for where we are now. Unfortunately, Erin passed away within a few years of hiring her. And that was rough. That was really rough for her family, obviously.
Wow.
And after that, I wobbled. There was some real wobble, like, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And I really would say that I subscribe to the idea that if I hadn't got back up and kept going, she'd be so mad because we worked really hard and she trusted me and I trusted her. And so, but knowing the talent I had in that person also helped me see what I needed to do in the future. And when the wobbling ended and I knew that I could not just do this on my own, there's too many details to do it on your own. People aren't really, they think it's a creative career. It is. There's a lot of math.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of procurement. There's a lot of engineering in what we're doing. Time, organization. I mean, there's a lot of detail in this work, and one wrong skew, one wrong quarter inch, eighth inch, 16 inch, everything can go wonkadoodle.
Oh,
so, it's pretty detailed. And so I have had really, really good luck with great people. Julie has actually 13 years ago, she hired me to design her home. And at the end of that, I posted a position and she came on board over 10 years ago. So that was a really beautiful thing because not only is she just literally ride or die, like she's awesome, but also the type of person who will say, hold the line, fix your feet, fix your face, adjust your sails, whatever it is, but hold the line because you're not wrong. Like the outcome that you're going for is intentional and important. And also having someone say to you, let it go. So those two phrases are really helpful to have in a person reflectively. And then Sydney, we did a review of her portfolio when she was a junior in college. And actually, she has a very talented fiance, Skylar, who has gone on to another career choice. And we knew we wanted to hire them both at a particular time. And then, so Sydney's been with us for quite some time. And then more recently, we added this furniture line. And so Ora House is a furniture line that we do with Daniel Chafin and his team. And we also have a full cabinetry shop with them. So that has created some growth. And in that, we hired Chloe, who is a SCAD graduate in furniture design, has a degree in furniture design, and then minored in interior design. And so at each step, knowing our capacity and knowing when we need to hire has been important. We're always probably at least a person behind. Like we could use another person.
For sure.
But I think that is a luxury. And as a small business, in order to know that when I go to sleep at night, everybody's fed and everybody's okay. And that all of our clients are cared for. It's a really tenuous balance. But I think knowing when you can't do more is when you have to hire.
No, that's super, super insightful from the trenches.
From the trenches.
This is the voice of experience.
You heard it here first.
That's right.
No, it's not
an
new.
Abstract theory class.
No, it's real. And it's everybody, I think, who's gone through this journey knows that, but we hold on a little longer than we want to sometimes for the illusion of control. Right. And the reality is, you're going to spin right out of control. Things will start falling out of place if you don't have the right people.
100%. 100%. That's super. I feel like all small business owners probably are standing up and cheering in their chairs right now with resonance. So and there's sometimes we've had regret too, right? Where we've put too much on our team. Right.
We also, the other thing that may or may not, may be cut on the floor of edits, but, we've also invested heavily in people who have left. And no one's, outside of COVID, nobody's ever been let go. So I think that, when you invest heavily in people and they go, it's a trendy thing to say, let them. But of course, you haven't any choice in that. Sometimes that's bruisey. Sometimes it's painful because you care for them. You know the ins and outs of that person and you've got a rhythm, right? But also to see what they've learned and see them go thrive. There's a bounty in that as well. Sometimes you take it on the chin and they're like, well, that's a loss. It's a big loss. But through it, there's, there is growth. And there, like I said, there are some regrets where you think I should have hired sooner. I've taxed people too long. I taxed myself too long. My family has been encumbered because I'm not here for this or that thing. And so, oftentimes there's a lovely woman that I've worked with for years, and she would always say, balance is for ballerinas, and you're not a ballerina, and that's true. So if like any person who's working and balancing family and work and children and then life, you just spin all the plates the best of your ability, and on any given day, one is going to fall. And it's just, where's the grace?
Yes,
and so that if you go into it just knowing that things won't always be perfect, they're going to be as perfect as you can make them for as many people as you can. And at the end of that landscape, or that trail is ideally a grace for one another.
I think since the days that I was on site every day, now it's more turning off my computer, but I always sort of wrap the day up with, we'll try again tomorrow. We gave
absolutely.
it a good run today, and it's time to go see the wife and kids, and we'll try again tomorrow.
That's right. There was a time in my life where I would get up, I would put the kids to bed, and I wanted this so badly, right? I wanted to be able to do this so badly that I would get up at around 1 a.m. And I would work until 4:30 in the morning. I'd go back to sleep and I'd get up with the kids. And because that's where I could have creative space, and my little studio was in our dining room. So I know what it is to now have the space to go to. I know the journey, and I try really hard to remember it always.
Right.
That is a luxury to have that space, and it's a luxury to have those people and have them committed and showing up every day. And I try to treat it as that because it's all, everything can change quickly. And so we just try to really lean into each other in that way and honor each other in the space and create the best possible outcome for our clients.
That's amazing. I'd love to hear more about Ora House for those who don't have any idea for it. Maybe introduce what Ora House is, but then how did it come to be? Like, what was the genesis of that?
The genesis, the fierce genesis was, I think there's always been this doodling space in my brain. My dad's a doodler. My grandfather was a doodler, harmonica player too. But I think you have to have a little something that's still yours, right? We put a lot into people's work. We develop things for them. We create new things. We solve problems in spaces with things that didn't exist before for them. But this over in my mind has always been that favorite thing I get to do. There's two things that are my favorite. One, I love to do a tile mosaic. I love it. We've been able to do it in a few jobs. It is my favorite thing to do, as if I were an artist. That is my favorite. And the other thing is those relationships with that person on site who says, but I have this skill. And after years of working in the same circles, hearing each other's names, I had the good fortune, truly, to be on a job with Daniel Chafin. And never, ever has Daniel Chafin said to me, well, that's not how we do it, or we've always done it that way. He has only said to me, that's virtually impossible. Let's try it. And because I'm not classically trained in furniture design, nothing that I've ever drawn for him to build is supported by classic furniture design. And so we had this great fortune to meet on a job. I mean, we meet collaboratively in work on the job. And the circumstances just unfolded in our favor that we could take this entity that we envisioned, which was born out of our gallery name, which is Original Art, which is a take off my name, right? Which is corny, but it was, and we had this LLC, so it was Original Art, and it was going to be this concept, and it just got traction. And to ever say that we've built it solely on our own would be untrue. We had a really lovely client who believed in us and saw what we were capable of in their space, but also saw what was left on the table by not being able to create this kind of entity. And so the freedom of having this entity where we can create custom furniture pieces, create a furniture line, and have a little bit more autonomy, a little bit more of ourselves left behind. There's so much poured into interior design and construction and time and energy, and you're really in somebody's space. I think the word transactional is often dirty, and I don't love the connotation, but I think having something that we create that's appreciated, that goes out into the world and feels special to somebody else, there's grace in that transaction of being able to, we're going to create. So it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Like every artist, whether you buy their art or not, they're going to continue to create. If they don't have a canvas, they're going to find a piece of paper. If they can't find a piece of paper, they're going to find a wall.
Right.
So I think like any artist or any creative, it's this space for us where we can ideate, right? Iterate, ideate, collaborate, and have community and build something out of Louisville that is unexpected. We showed it in New York, and people ask us multiple times in the same conversation, where did you say you're from? And I think that stylistically, that's a compliment. It's an unexpected outcome from Louisville. Meanwhile, it's feeding literally and figuratively a creative hunger, but also a group of creatives that now collectively between Ora House and Natalie Officer Design, we're 10 people.
Yeah.
So we have this group of creative minds that are here for the benefit of the city and also putting something out into the world on behalf of the city that is unexpected, nuanced, and interesting beyond what we're used to seeing, you know? And all homage to what we have been, but this is a little bit more of a calling card for what we can be and what we can create as a community. That is, you know, we're humble brag, but we just won the Storage Award from Interior Design Magazine in New York for a piece that is a collaboration with a local artist made by hand from, you know, the Ora shop. So by Daniel and Alex and James. And I think that for me, after all this time in interior design, that's some of the best feedback, the best vibe for us is that it's lifting artists, it's employing artisans and craftspeople, and it's giving Louisville a good name.
Yeah. So how did you think through what to enter into? And congratulations on winning the award.
Thank you.
But was that always the intent with that piece, or was the piece its own and then the opportunity to enter it came up later?
So our collection, I think we are 7 pieces into our collection. We have lighting now, which is a collaboration with Highland Glass. And we have benches and ottomans and cushions and all sorts of things. But the Ora House, it's called the Art Hutch, and it was already built. I mean, it was built solely to take art out of the frame and put it into this piece of furniture and make functional art. And so, again, knowing when you need to hire.
Yeah.
I will create all day long. I am terrible at submitting for work, submitting for awards, you know, I guess what I would say on a national, getting the work out into the community. And that's really where Chloe has come in clutch. She knows that world. She understands that if you don't submit your work, people don't come looking forward, you know, so you have to put it on a platform where people can see it on an international level, create interest, create stir. And, you know, I wouldn't say that awards are not important. That's a personal level, you know, personal gauge for yourself. But I would say that it worked, you know, it worked for our brand and it worked for the artist to be seen, and, you know, custom orders, nuance, reimagining. And now people want the same piece, but they want it larger, you know, they want it wider. They want it in walnut. They want, you know, and you kind of are like, okay, you give a goose a muffin, they're going to jam. But, you know, it is really, what a compliment to have someone say, I really like what you did there. Yeah. Can you do it again? Can you do it bigger? Can you do it the way we want to do it? And for right now, that fits and that works for all of us. So it's lovely. But
that's super cool.
Yeah.
So with how much of what Ora House produces is more like residential or even commercial casework, I guess, versus these art pieces and furniture?
Well, like all good things, you have to have balance.
That's right. Yeah.
Ballerinas. But right now, the furniture pieces, the more that we place them and the more that we showcase them, the more people understand them. So we have multiple orders in based on our recent show. Survival-wise, basic casework like your basic kitchens. We don't really do a basic kitchen, but you know, we'll pretend. Let's say in the kitchen aspect of, I would say that we're 2/3 into cabinetry.
Okay.
maybe 2/3. We have some custom pieces that we do that would be considered casework, but for example, a full corner cabinet that's all burl wood.
Yeah.
It's not cabinetry per se.
Yeah.
So we have a whole custom element, and then we have Ora House, the furniture line. And so back to diversifying, right?
Yeah.
So just like your work, probably for us, there's consulting, right? For us, there's design, and then there's project management.
Yeah.
And then there's, the drawing sets. And we bill independently for these things because not everybody needs everything from us.
Right.
And so that's how we create, as business owners, multiple streams of revenue to support all the things that we need to survive.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the furniture.
Yeah.
We would love, I know that we would love eventually for that to be the main thing, that's a goal for all of us because there's efficiency in production.
Right.
We are very responsible in the way that we source our wood. We're very resourceful. We are very responsible in the way that we even use woods that would be considered waste.
Yeah.
In some of our pieces, like a spalted ambrosia maple, like it's something that not everybody understands or knows about, but it's stunning piece of furniture. And lost my train of thought.
Talking about diversity and kind of making that transition from a casework building to furniture building. And
I think it's the responsibility. It's the paints that we use, the finishes that we use, trying to just be responsible humans in that way. Within the furniture line, we have more ownership in that versus what we put into a kitchen set where it's something that has to stand the next 20 years. We're very thoughtful about the chemicals we use and that kind of thing on the furniture line and on the cabinetry as well. But it's just nicer to have a piece that we can really, control that outcome. And it's fun, it's fun, and you're a little free of spirit when you get to design something like that. So,
So what would be like I guess we're halfway through 26 now. So 26, 27, Natalie O design. What is like a dream project that you got your eye on, that even if it's not a particular project, but a type of project or somewhere you'd love to see Natalie O put their stamp?
I'm always strategizing and I'm always adjusting. And so for us, we spent a few years positioning for Nashville, and we've now done 4 projects in the Nashville market, and I have a really good relationship with that market, and it's wonderful. I would like to see us doing something great in St. Louis. I think that's the next reasonable market for us to be in. Maybe Indianapolis. It's a little tougher for me. It's like going back home, and I love to go back home. But I think there's an appetite for the kind of work that we do kind of in this region, St. Louis to Cincinnati and down to Nashville and Louisville. And Lexington is actually, we've done some really great work in Lexington. But for me, I like the idea of the geography. I like a new market. I like learning about having conversations with different craftspeople. So I think that would be on the horizon. I'd like to see Natalie O Design do more work in the West End. We've had a great relationship there on another project that we did. I'd like to see the contractors thriving. I'd like to see Louisville understanding the beauty of the community and the Shawnee and all of that. That's something that's always in my mind. How do we bridge our city and how do we do a better job of community? And so those are kind of the things on my radar. So when you think about like somewhere as removed as St. Louis, what's your first like foot in the door there? Like, how are you looking at St. Louis and being like, okay, I'm going to go meet this person, or what's your entry point? Well, you have so many good questions. I'm not sure that being a GC is your thing. No, really good questions. And I don't think Oprah could do better. I think seeing people who see you, I think, is important. So if you're doing something and other people admire that or they're drawn to it, taking a note about who that is and what they're doing and returning that favor. And so my draw to St. Louis is based on the number of people and the types of people who have reached out to us and said, hey, I don't know if you know about this neighborhood in St. Louis, but I really think that this could be a good spot for you, or we'd love to have this caliber of design in the city. and I'm not seeing it other places. Would you consider?
Yeah.
And so I think that is how we got to Cincinnati, right? We had a client who called us and she said, I'm not going to do this house with anybody else. I've been watching for years and you're the right designer for us.
Yeah.
And
so
that has led to now 4 jobs in Cincinnati.
Wow.
So, I think if you slow down and you listen on your channels, and that could be personal in person, it could be on social media, it could be, it could be people who just call you and say, hey, whatever your channel or whatever your medium is, I think you just see people who see you is kind of that whole curiosity step. Be generous of heart enough to call back to them and say, hey, you're doing something cool too. What are you doing? And take an interest. And I think that's why St. Louis is calling. We're getting really a lot of interest from that market. We're getting other creative people saying, hey, I saw this house. Have you seen this? And sending a listing. And that's actually happening in Indianapolis as well. And so I think that I guess you would call it that's corporately, we would call it synergy or, whatever the word is, matched energy, My kids use the term life maxing. So I think that if I were doing work in St. Louis and Indianapolis, we would be completely life maxing. So we'll probably start with one, but just seeing people who see you is important.
Yeah. What great advice. Well, I could feel like I could keep going for a long time.
As long as we like, yes. And I didn't want to be corrective about the date. I just would hate for you to say 25 years and I'm only 40.
Okay.
I'm kidding. But
just that.
We've been here a long time now.
Yeah.
And we're lucky because we've had the great joy to work with some really wonderful general contractors. I would say that Pat Durham was my gateway to Louisville. He was the head of the renovation home remodelers. And as I said, I wasn't a great joiner. Pat was a great welcomer. And I think that was a really nice segue into me understanding this market and getting into construction.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I need to have you back on because I feel like we could spend an entire episode talking about social media and another full episode talking about light and how light influences a project. And I think one of the things, those two things in my mind go together because I love the way that you utilize photography to highlight the impact that lighting has. I feel like every one of your posts, I'm like, that is a well lit space. And so I feel like I need to have you back so we can dive deep into lighting.
I love lighting, and that is a whole nother episode.
Yes.
At the end of the day, most of us are plants, so we lean toward the natural light, and that's where we'll find joy. And so I try to fill spaces with as much as possible.
Right.
Social media, that is a whole nother conversation. I think that we try really hard to lift all the people who work on the jobs that we do and showcase their work because we can't use them all the time. And so we hope that we've used it for good.
Yeah. And how much of that are you personally involved with versus how much do people help you out with the social media side of things?
It's all me.
All you?
On the social media side for Natalie Design, it's all me. We've and I'm sure anyone who's an expert sees things I could do better. There will always be somebody who will say you could or it should be this or that. But right now, we just are who we are as a brand.
Yeah.
And we're going to stay very consistent with that. I'm not going to chase the algorithm. I'm not going to chase the body in motion of doing reels all day, every day.
Yeah.
I don't know that we have to, and I don't think that it's healthy based on the amount of time that we have to do good work for our clients.
Right.
But we do try to use it to elevate outside of just one zip code, to get visibility, and to also put visibility on the people that we work with.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think you're doing a fantastic job. So,
thanks.
No notes from me.
Great. No notes. I love no notes. I love no notes more than you know.
Okay. There's no red lines, no revisions.
No red lines, no revisions.
Just going to let it go.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thanks, Jake, for having me. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you coming on. It was an absolute joy, and you made it totally easy. So
I hope so. Thank you.